Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence is a very commonly cited slogan on internet social media platforms when religious debates come up. And while it's catchy and might even seem to have some intuitive appeal, it really doesn't have much intellectual substance. It turns out to be an empty slogan that doesn't really further any type of discussion, and I want to briefly talk about why that is. Let's take the claim and kind of break it apart. Extraordinary claims. Okay, this should initially raise the question in our heads, what makes a claim extraordinary? This is a little bit vague. Does it mean simply unusual? Does it mean improbable? If it means unusual, there's a lot of unique events that occur both in history and in the everyday world, which I doubt people would use this slogan in reference to. So that's probably not it. Does it mean improbable? Well, if it's talking about improbable, then that brings in concepts of prior probability and how we assign those in Bayesian statistics. So even that's a bit uncertain. So let's move past that though and say, okay, maybe we can deem a claim is extraordinary, right? What makes an evidence extraordinary? At what point do you go from this is normal evidence to extraordinary evidence? Where's that line? Again, it's vague and it's kind of arbitrary and subjective. It doesn't have any distinct criteria to it. And so when somebody makes this claim offhandedly and dismissively to a proponent of some religious claim, what they're doing is, in a sense, committing two fallacies at the same time. And these two fallacies are a special pleading fallacy and a moving a goalpost fallacy. A moving the goalpost fallacy is one in which you move the goalpost. You constantly change where your opponent needs to get into a debate. And this is because they can just slap the label extraordinary claim on any claim that they don't like, and then they can say, oh, well, you haven't provided extraordinary evidence. Maybe someone gives an argument for some miracle or the resurrection of Jesus, and they can say, well, you've provided evidence, but you haven't provided extraordinary evidence. And so they can constantly keep moving the goalpost. And they can do this because, as I mentioned before, it's just not clear where this line is of where something goes from ordinary evidence to extraordinary evidence. And that's because extraordinary is not a precise term. So not only that, but it's also this special pleading fallacy where they're saying that if you make this type of claim, you have to perform this special level of evidence, right? So oftentimes Christians will say that if we approach the New Testament and the claims of Christianity using normal historical methodology, we have good evidence for believing that Jesus rose from the dead. And what the skeptic would do in this situation is they're saying, yes, 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 but you're the exception to normal methodology. You have this higher level of evidence you have to meet. And so it's special pleading for the skeptic to do this and say that they have to meet a certain new level of evidence. I think if we wanted to be cheeky with this, we could also say that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. That is itself a claim, and I don't know, seems kind of extraordinary, right? Like it's applying to all extraordinary claims. Well, has extraordinary evidence been, given for that? I'm kind of being tongue in cheek here, but I think you might get the point that this is just a vague claim and it's asserted, and we should probably try to avoid it. There are other problems, like for instance, if extraordinary claim is being used in regards to probability, has not really taking in the nuances of Bayesian probability and prior probabilities and things along that lines. But I'm going to conclude this here and just say, in these type of religious discourses, let's try to raise the level of conversation and engage specifically with the material that each side is presenting, instead of just using these kind of haphazard slogans that are thrown around.